I'd like to share a story with you today. I remember it so well, it feels like it happened just yesterday. But really, this happened many, many years ago when I was a young college student at Gallaudet College. It all started when I went home to New York for the summer. And it was right after my first year at Gallaudet. The entire month of June, I was looking for work. It was really hard to find a job because there were so many college students like myself that were doing the same thing, looking for work. It was a really frustrating experience for me. Every time I would go into an office, I would apply for a job, and they would tell me no. They'd take one look at me and say no. The answer was always the same. Sorry, no openings. So one morning, I was reading the newspaper, and I saw an advertisement for a dishwasher. It was at a summer camp. So I read it, and I thought I could be a dishwasher. I can do that. Let's go. I'm ready. So I went to the office, and it was located on 5th Avenue, and I was excited. I was the first applicant to arrive that day. I filled out my application, and then I waited. Finally, the secretary told me that it was okay for me to go into the office. So I walked in, and I saw a man standing there with black-rimmed glasses. Obviously, he looked like the boss. So I gave him my application, and he looked over it, he looked at it and looked at me and started talking. I had to explain to him that I was deaf and that I couldn't hear him, so if he could just slow down a little bit. And he said, "What?" And I said, "I'm deaf." And then he realized and said, "Oh, okay," and pointed to the door. So I followed him, and he opened the door, and I walked through, and when I turned around, the door had shut. And I found myself standing in the same hallway I had just arrived in from the elevator. He'd asked me to leave the office without any kind of explanation as to why. So I got in the elevator, and as the elevator started going down, I started feeling really depressed. He asked, how could he ask me to leave without explaining why? Any kind of explanation. I can do that job. I could be a dishwasher. It doesn't require me to hear. So when I stepped out of the elevator, I walked into the hallway, and there was so much traffic. People whizzing past me in every direction. The sun was beating down that day. And I lethargically walked outside, feeling upset, and then I thought, if I just give up all the time, if I just give up, I'm not really going to get far in life. I can't have that kind of mentality. So I thought the best decision was to go back in there and have a talk with him. So I turned around, went back in the building, got on the elevator, and as the elevator's going up, I got all my feelings out, told everything I wanted to say on paper. And I walked right past the secretary into the office and gave the boss my note. He took the note and pointed right back to the door and asked me to leave, and I said, "No, not until you read my note." So he started looking through it and actually reading it. In the note, I explained that I'm a student, I go to college, I need a job. A dishwasher does not require me to hear. I mean, I have 2 working arms. And the note also proved that I could read, or write and read. So he asked me to sit down with him. And since I could lip read, we were able to talk a little bit, have a conversation. And guess what? I got the job. I'll never forget that day when I arrived to summer camp. It was in Massachusetts. It was beautiful. There were trees everywhere. big open land. I was excited. I was excited to start working. So my first day, these buckets of dishes are coming in, and to be honest, I hate washing dishes. I hate being a dishwasher, but that's life. So for 1 month, I worked my butt off. And then finally, a camp counselor came in and said that they needed a volunteer to help them with hay, baling hay. So I volunteered right away. I want to do it. I mean, because really, I don't want to be stuck in the kitchen washing dishes. So really early in the morning, I got with my group and we started baling hay. Piling it on top of each other, moving it into the barn way in the back. I worked all morning. My hands were killing me. They had blisters all over them. They were yellow. It was terrible, but I kept going. I persevered and kept baling hay. In the afternoon, it was time for lunch. So we all ran out, ate, and after lunch, I was exhausted. So I decided to go sit by a tree and relax. But what happened was I fell asleep, and when I woke up, there was nobody around me. They'd all gone back to work. I thought, oh shoot, I'm late. So I was running back to the barn, picked up my pitchfork, and when I got there, I saw the foreman standing like on top, looking down at me, making weird faces at me like. So I stood there looking at him, and my first gut reaction was to turn around and get out of there. But then I thought, no, I better just keep going. Suck it up. So I got back to work, picked up my pitchfork, and started baling hay again, piling it on top of each other, moving hay into the barn. And then I looked up and I saw black clouds rolling in. It was definitely going to start raining soon, like any minute. So I started working really, really fast, moving hay into the barn all the way in the back before it started raining. So I worked really, really hard, really fast, and when I got to the barn, the foreman excused everybody except me and one other person. And he told me to go onto the loft in the barn, and then the two people on the bottom would throw hay up to me, and then it was my responsibility to even out the hay and stack it up evenly. So the two guys at the bottom were throwing hay up to me. I was working really hard. There was hay flying in my face. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I was sneezing. And this continued and continued. And then I saw that the foreman was actually enjoying my misery. So there was like 1 minute where I really was like, I give up. I can't do this anymore. But then the foreman saw me and said, okay, let's switch places. You come down here and then I'll go up there. So I was like, okay. So as soon as I got down, it felt so much better. And then I thought, now it's time for revenge. So I did the same thing to him that he did to me. I quickly was throwing hay up to him. And he was like me, he was getting piled up. He almost got stuck between the ceiling and the hay. And finally, that was it. We did it all. And as soon as we were done, it started lightning and pouring down rain. So I stumbled out and just collapsed on the ground and let the rain pour down on me. I just laid there for a minute. And when I opened my eyes,